Good morning, everybody. My name is Angel Toro, and today I'm just going to be talking about my thoughts on the new Spider-Man trailer. First thing I want to talk about, actually, is the suit. I really like the idea that Tom is kind of an in-between Andrew and Toby, and how it's reflected in his suit, you know, with the spider logo being an in-between. But, you know, he has the raised webbing from the Raimi suit, and then he has the darker colors of the TASM suit. His belt is kind of similar to the TASM suit, where the legs are just the solid color, and then it's the belt around the waist, and that's when it goes up into the webbing pattern. I know a lot of people don't like the MJ Ned being in this movie plot point. However, I do think that it is a mislead, because I do believe most of the movie is going to be Spider-Man related. I don't think they would put as much emphasis in the trailer on how Spider-Man looks if Spider-Man himself wasn't going to be in the movie most of the time. But what I mean by that is in the Spider-Man suit with the mask on. They really tried hard to get you to like watching Spider-Man, as opposed to the last trilogy, where anytime Spider-Man was on the screen, he looked CG'd, he looked weird. He looked like a basketball a lot of the time. I think because of the emphasis on how good Spider-Man looks, this movie will feature mostly Spider-Man. And that's why the Ned and MJ scenes are a little misleading in this trailer. I can see why people are a little afraid.
What the hell, Frank? You just hit me with a van!
Quit your whimpering. Suit yourself.
This scene shows another reason why I think the action is going to be super solid in this movie. It's because it's going to be layered with more than just that, with supplemental pieces that enhance the action. For instance, when Spider-Man and Frank are talking, you get a little break from the main action sequence, and you get a side action sequence between Frank and Spider-Man, where you also learn about their relationship. Peter calls him Frank. You know, they've met before. It seems like they have at least a little bit of a rapport with one another. I also really like how Spider-Man is written in this movie. Spider-Man seems a lot more mature than the old Spider-Man in the Tom Holland movies that we knew. The jokes that he made were, you know, very juvenile.
Hey guys, the illegal weapons deal ferry was at 10:30. You missed it. I'm shocked.
I really like how far Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Spider-Man have come. You know, he's a little more mature. He's taking things a little more seriously. I mean, we haven't really seen him fight tree-level crime outside of Homecoming, and in Homecoming he wasn't taking it super seriously.
What are you doing robbing the bank, dude?
You know, he was very arrogant at Homecoming.
What's up, guys? Did you get your PIN number?
Now when he's fighting tree-level crime, he's taking it a lot more seriously. It just shows a more mature side of Spider-Man. He webs up Frank's mouth, and you know, it builds character for Spider-Man, but it also builds character for Frank, because you get the cursing Frank in a PG-13 movie without actually having him. And you know, it's just really clever writing.
And sometimes Spider-Man has to do the hard thing, even if it breaks Peter Parker's heart.
What is happening to me?
Now, I think these scenes are going to be what makes this movie unique compared to the other live-action Spider-Man movies. Have we done any stuff like this with Peter Parker's powers? The only other time I could really think of is Spider-Man 2, when they kind of did the opposite. I think it's an amazing Spider-Man number 392 that it's Peter Parker no more, whereas in Spider-Man 2, where it was the Amazing Spider-Man number 50, Spider-Man no more. I think that is the most similar to another Spider-Man movie that this is doing, but however, clearly it's different. It's the opposite. And in that comic, what I remember happening was Peter basically only wanted to be Spider-Man, so he was sleeping in cocoons and he called himself the Spider. I think this movie's going to draw inspiration from that story at least a little bit. In Spider-Man 2, Peter lost his powers because he didn't want to be Spider-Man anymore, and he was losing his powers. However, in this movie, Peter doesn't want to be Peter anymore, so he's evolving with his powers, he's mutating a little bit. This also goes into the theme of mutation and mutants that this movie is gonna have, but that I'll talk about more so in a bit. But yeah, I think that this movie is going to really separate itself from how weird it can get. They could do whatever they want with it. They could turn Tom Holland into Man-Spider. So they could go anywhere with this. It could be really cool. It could be really disappointing. I'm on the side of being excited for it because of the amount of possibilities that they could do with it. I think they're hiding something. This person in the green, that is later shown with the yellow hood, it's Sadie St. Jean Grey. Who else would have that color scheme in a movie where there's a mutant motif, where the Department of Damage Control is searching her, as we've seen in the set photos, that the Department of Damage Control is after her. Who do we know in the MCU that the Department of Damage Control is going after? It's mutants. So who is a redhead that's a mutant that has mind control powers? It's probably Jean Grey. The one thing that I have no idea where it fits is where Scorpion and Tombstone fit in all this. Because I think that the trailer is pretty airtight. We got what Peter's dealing with, and Spider-Man's mutating. There's the Sadie Sink stuff with the Department of Damage Control and Frank. But where are Scorpion and Tombstone in all this? We could assume that Scorpion is contracted by Tombstone. However, what stakes is it going to have in this movie? What is it going to do in this movie? Because we know that Savage Hulk is going to be in the movie too. Probably due to Jean Grey's mind control. The only other time that the Hulk was mind controlled in MCU was by another mutant, Wanda. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Jean Grey is going to be the one that turns Bruce Banner back into the Savage Hulk if the Savage Hulk is in this movie. So what do Tombstone and Scorpion have to do in this movie? Are they just going to be villains that Spider-Man beats up alongside whatever plot is happening with Frank, Sadie, and the Department of Damage Control? Does it have to do with the stuff with the Hand later on? It could be that this movie has two things going on. It's the Department of Damage Control, and then it's all the Scorpion, the Hand, Tombstone stuff also going on. That could be like an A and a B plot. This is what I mean by how weird they could get with Peter's powers. I can't remember when Peter had red eyes like that. So this is definitely something new that they're trying. Please let me know in the comments if you do know, so I could get educated. This is what I mean is pretty exciting about this movie. They could go wherever with his powers. Also, clearly in this shot of the Hand fighting Peter, there's a lot of space for someone else that I think is going to be Daredevil. Why else would you have a Daredevil villain in the Hand? And it's Spider-Man and Punisher. Is Daredevil going to be left out? He was in Matt Murdock was in the last one, you know? You gotta bring in Daredevil now. There's this scene at the end where they're in this room and they have all these photos of Spider-Man. This is just MJ's apartment, and MJ is obsessed with Spider-Man. We saw that in Far From Home, she was obsessed with Spider-Man before she knew it was Peter. She was trying to figure out who Spider-Man was. And she kind of had an interest in Peter's life in Homecoming too, you know?
He already quit marching band and robotics lab. I'm not obsessed with him, I'm just very observant.
I think that it wouldn't be too far-fetched if MJ was kind of obsessed with Spider-Man and she was trying to figure out his identity, and maybe that's how they can learn about each other once more, is that MJ figures out Spider-Man is Peter once again. Overall, I think this movie is going to be pretty awesome. I'm very excited.